love to you and yours. We're going to be talking about the deacons. We're going to be talking about a dance of light. This is really cool. So I was looking at what I was studying in my notes, and I just wanted to share it with you. This is Siren Buddha Medicine, Regina's Rabbit Hole. So I'm just going to run through this. You can rewind. I don't see anybody here yet. Alright, so this is a dance of light. A dance of light. In shade. I wonder if I have this set up right. Alright, so the one on the physical basis, the other on the spiritual plane, and the mythology, the 7 primordial powers that pass through various phases, elemental, stellar, or lunar, always in a group of 7, finally becomes the soul, the 7 souls of Ra, who attain supremacy as the sun god of mythology, and also as the Holy Spirit. Thus came the doctrine of the 7 souls in man as 7 gifts of the Holy Spirit. In the astrology and the mythology representation, Sooths, on New Year's Day, was the bringer forth of the child that was mothered by Hathor or Isis. The type is employed in the eschatology of the ritual when the mains of Amente prays for the rebirth as pure spirit and says, "May I live or rise up and go forth from between the closed knees of Sooths." The rebirth of a child in Sooths was a renewal of the year. Sooths began being represented in the female character by Hathor as a bringer forth from betwixt her knees, or elsewhere rendered her keptu, i.e. her thighs. So the mains are reborn from between the thighs of Nut and the mysteries of Amente, and here the visible birthplace of the spirit's preferred is localized in Sooths, the opener of the year and the bringer forth of the babe, to birth upon the horizon, or the mount of glory. And so we have the Binu bird, or the mount, that being an array of a spectrum of color, right? And earth being the mound, or that place where the egg was laid. So we are a composition of light, right? This is the dance of light. Okay, I need my fan. You know, I think this might be on private because I don't see a soul. So I'm just going to keep going. So, we have a dance of light. That dance of light expresses itself on the earth plane within the aspects of the zodiacs. So each zodiac has a composition of light, okay? Has a composition of life force frequency, okay? And each zodiac, we have 12. Each one has, let's say, 3 different aspects, okay? You can break it down. It's broken down in eclipse a lot more when you're studying astrology. But we're going to stick with one zodiac. So it looks like a pie. So out of the 12 signs, you take a slice, okay? And each slice has its own attributes, you know what I'm saying? Let's say you want to make this really funky pizza, and it's portioned up where there's 12 people and each one wants something different on their pizza. Bottom line is it's a pizza, right? But each person wants a slice, and each slice has different components in it. You know what I'm saying? That's probably a really bad analogy, but that's as close as I'm going to get to that analogy right now. So we have 12 parts, and each part divided into 3 parts, okay? And so you want to do 3% each, okay? Each of those parts are 3%. Okay? So somehow it breaks down into 3% per 3 parts, ending up with 36. So I hope that makes sense to you, okay? We take one slice and it has 3 different parts, okay? So it's not just one part. You take that slice and you break it up into 3 more slices. So we're looking at, I wanted to make a healing chart with different attributes on it. This is not really the way I wanted to start this, but I was looking at the Danas. In ancient Iranian religion, the Dana symbolized the female principle, okay, the anima of the Hungarian spirit, while at the same time identifying it with the sum of actions, good and bad, that the man performs during his life. On the 3rd day after his death, the just man is greeted on the bridge of Savant by a wondrously beautiful young girl, the Dana, who becomes united with him for eternity, thus reconstructing the primordial androgen, or a higher plane. The Kabbalah needed to give reality to the principle of the ethereal female and gave the name of Shekinah to the female aspect of God. The Shekinah is a complex entity, possibly one of Jehovah's angels or Jehovah himself. In every case, it is the loved one referred to in the Song of Solomon. So it's known to me that dance and poetry was an acceptable occurrence when it came to the spiritual realms. You know, it wasn't just the pain and suffering. We were very polarized in regards to the spirituality. So, dance, because we're interchanging words, it's like a dance of light. So we got to go back to some of my first talks about this when I was saying how I wanted to keep this simple. And it really is. It's going to keep it simple in my mind. The Hebrew language is alchemical. Alchemical meaning that it's alive. Each part, each component of it has a purpose. It's not just dormant. There's no part of it that doesn't have a part of it that has meaning. Not just that, but it's living. For instance, take the letter A. A stands for Aleph. And Aleph stands for one second, please. I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none myself. I'd rather just get it for you instead of make a mistake trying to remember so many different portions of information. That's why I have a lot of referencing things that I can do when I'm looking to be sure about something, or more sure about something. Okay, so language is alive, our language is alive, comes from the Iconian it's symbols, okay? And those symbols are alive. And it's a light code frequency. So we conceptualize an idea in our mind. It all starts with a thought. So we imagine something in our mind, we start to think on it, start to visualize it, it starts to actually come alive. And then there's different dimensions of bringing that thought down to the planet, to manifest it in real time in life. And so this A, or the language, the Hebrew alphabet that they're saying is alchemical, here we go, pages and stuff. Aleph means ox, and ox being synonymous with one of the first deities. So you talk about currency, right? This is, ox also means master, and it means awe. You know, and it's synonymous with one, okay? There's 22 letters, so, you know, to try to remember some of the stuff in the synonymous information, I write a lot of it down in order to help jar it. Writing it down also gives me a place where I can go back and reference the many different things that I've studied, you know. There's so many different charts to be able to look at language from different angles, okay? So basically, you know, and I really didn't even want to go there, you know, but just that language is a light code frequency, all right? Language is a light code frequency that breaks down, that manifests into different layers where it becomes alive, where, we integrate it into real life, okay? And so it's a dance of light, a dance of the information. Light is information. It's a dance of light, a dance of the information that we can comprehend. Okay. So now I'm going to read this. The mains make their passage through a mente by means of what they know. Deceased and one of his supplications says, O thou ship of the garden, Araro, let me be conveyed to the bread of thy canal, as my father the great one, who advanceth and the divinest ship, because I know thee. Okay? He knew because, as we see, and this is referring to the book of the Coming Forth by Day and the book of the Dead. Okay? And chapter 99, this book is referring to another book that's more extensive in regarding to this topic. And he says, he had learned the names of every part of the bark in which the spirit sailed. Knowledge was power. Knowledge was gnosis. And the gnosis was the science of the mystery teachers and the masters of sign language. Okay? Those symbols, and symbols being light, and symbols being information, and light being information. Ignorance was the most dire and deadly. Tell me about it. That's still the case. How could one travel in the next world any more than in this without knowing the way? The way in a mente was indicated typographically, very much in keeping with the ways of Egypt, chief of which was the waterway of the great river. Directions, names, passwords were furnished and writing to be placed in the mummy of the deceased. Better still, if these instructions and the divine teachings were learned by heart, had been enacted, and the word made truth and life, then the book of the dead and life became the book of life and death. We live in America, corporate America. We have dead presidents. They say that we kind of like worship necrophilia, you know what I'm saying, with all the death, and even when you look at all the carnage and the price that had to be paid in order to make it what it is. Thank goodness it's changing, and thank goodness it was what it was, for the lessons learned and the progress earned on either part when it comes to us being better people. You know what I'm saying? He is a master of gnosis, a knower or a knowing soul, and therefore not to be caught like an ignorant fish in a net. That reminds me of the Masonic occult symbolism of the lost sailor at sea, and a lot of that being synonymous with economy and with worth and with the straw man, okay, and your social security number economy, okay? And the dead presidents and us, you know, they say we're already in hell. So, during this time of revelation, during this time of awakening, if you were to rise up again, you know what I'm saying, for whatever sleep that you were in, whatever death, you know, to me, I was more dead when I didn't have the information to make a better choices, when I didn't know what was happening to me. I just took everybody else's interpretation of what was happening to me via the regular establishment and how we get answers from, you know what I'm saying, the general public, the news, you know, the newspaper, the media, whatever anybody else in our life is normally exposed to. But all those avenues are mainstream, and learning how mainstream information is being manipulated to a point where we're kept in this ignorance, you know what I'm saying? So if ignorance is death, it was considered death in the ancient days of Kemet and Egypt, you know what I'm saying? And knowledge was considered life, because knowledge made you useful. Knowledge was the currency. Wherever you go, there you be. So if you're knowledgeable, you have some currency, you have an ability to at least survive, right? And that's an interesting way of looking at it, because like, if we're working to be able to have a roof over our head, if you can make a roof over your head, you're one step ahead of the game. And if you could make food, then you don't have to buy food. You don't have to make money to buy food. You can just cut out the middleman and make food, you know what I'm saying? If you make money to buy clothing, you can make your own clothing. But the way they get us is that their stuff is better than our stuff, right? We need the logos and the labels. I was watching this show. This is a sidetrack. The dance of life. We're still on the same subject. Africa. What was it? South Africa. Not sure. They have these guys they call the dandies, and they dress to the nines. They dress to kill. They dress in all the men high fashion name brand labels and stuff like that. And so where the poverty is greatest, they dress like they're superstars. What? Superstars. They dress as if they're risen above the poverty, even though they haven't. To the point where, to a fault, many will say, where they spend their money on, this extravagant attire and stuff, when people all around them are suffering, just for food and to maintain, a roof over their head and stuff. They'll go buy this, Armani and, extravagant suits and stuff, and get them imported into, the most degraded spaces. And I think of, I was like, wow, we do that here. Where people who don't have anything spruce themselves up and dress as if, it's more important what you have on, some feel, than what's inside. But anyway, as far as ritual is concerned, the reason why I said that is because in the background I see something synonymous with the fact that in ancient times, the king would actually dress up, in this book, the king would actually dress up like Baphomet, or a deity, not Baphomet. He would dress up like this deity and dance and drink and be merry as a way to appease the spirits. and that was ritual. And so dance was an acceptable currency. Allowing yourself to be mounted, even in regards to voodoo, and looking at researching that, the different ways that voodoo can express itself culturally through the different cultures, you know. It's been really interesting. So this dance, or getting into a space of flow, allows you to be mounted. The dance of light and the alphabet. You had to have bit of some of this for studying to really understand what I'm saying at this point, unless you have your ancestors and spirit is speaking to you, you know. But you can always go back and research some of these things, and you know, little by little over the years, I researched a little bit here, a little bit there. It needs to be synonymous. It needs to strike a chord inside of you and your soul and your genetic makeup according to your composition of life. You know what I'm saying? Due to your zodiac and your date of birth, okay? So it's not someone else's. It's something that's tailored to you, and it speaks to your spirit, okay? Ah, here it goes right in my face. Dance. It was in this book, too. The corporeal image of the given process or becoming, or of the passage of time. In Hindu doctrine, the dance of Shiva in his role of Natraja, Nataraja, the king of the cosmic dance, symbolizing the union of space and time within evolution, clearly has this meaning. There is a universal belief that, and so far as it is a rhythmic art form, it is a symbol of the act of creation. This is why the dance is one of the most ancient forms of magic. Every dance is a pantomime of metamorphosis, and so calls for a mask to facilitate and conceal the transformation, which seeks to change the dancer into a god, a demon, or some other chosen form of existence. Its function is, and consequence, cosmologic. The dance is the incarnation of ethereal energy. What? The dance is the incarnation of ethereal energy. Can you see the correspondences? Starts with a thought, right? And so the slaves, I don't know if you remember me reading you this book, yeah, the dance book, okay? It was the African dance book. African dance book. Okay. Anyway, that one's upstairs, so I'm just gonna quick quote you the info, okay? Fast forward on that, slaves would take a pole and stick it inside of the fire and dance around the fire. And, you know, a lot of the things that we took from our culture then, we brought with us, and it just morphed into something else, like the telephone game. Its meaning, its deeper meaning lost within the ignorance of other people's interpretations of our culture or our spiritual symbolism, okay? So it all starts with a thought. And we're talking shadows and light. We're talking rays of light, and we're talking dimensions of shadow. Okay? We're talking about the pole. We're talking about the dance of light. Okay? The dance of light is comprehension. It's like an artwork. Okay? Whereas the letters within an alphabet are we have a very structured and rigid environment when it comes to the regulation of Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Okay? In regards to letters, and them being symbols, and these symbols being synonymous with the planetary energies, and the embedding being on the day that's synonymous with the planetary energies, which utilizes that symbol, brings it more to life and allows a channel by way of the embedding, because energy never dies and it only transforms. This energy has now a porthole, so that if you know how to utilize it, you know what I'm saying? And there's people who are wizards, okay? They spent lifetimes having access to this information where it wasn't so spooky for them to discuss it, you know what I'm saying, or study it and things. So, you know, we're behind schedule in awakening. No, we're right on time. I shouldn't say that. We're behind schedule. It's just that as far as our knowledge, ability, you know, within our repertoire, we need to catch up with some stuff. Okay? So the pole dancing. Okay? Now we have pole dancing. Anana went down to hell. Are we in hell? Are we already dead? Did we die for lack of knowledge? Have we been dead? The living dead? And so now we're awakening. And so one man's devil is another man's angel, right? One man's God is another man's, you know, probably disaster. You know what I'm saying? It's a changing of the guard. It's revelations and stuff. So there's things going on, and there's a conception or an exchange of ideas and information going on right now. And information is energy. It's like a Shekinah and life force energy, like Kundalini energy. It's the female aspect, and that's what I'm going over right now. Is the way a woman is like the weather, right? She's like the weather, moody. Okay. Water with menstrual cycles, the moon, okay, and water, and the ebb and flow of emotion, right, of the waves, right, the Shekinah, the thing they want to control. Oh, there she goes again, we've got to control it, because they want to fixate it. So they have fixated different aspects and attributes of this spiritual energy, boxed it in, okay, into this matrix that we call a calendar, right? It loops our minds into this dance where we only see certain aspects of things, right? So they've taken the woman that used to be one way, okay? The slave is pole dancing, no longer at the sun and then being the center, point zero, and doing the interaction, you know what I'm saying, between them and the creator and the spiritual realms, right? Using that as a porthole. But this pole in the ground, like a stake, like a pin, being the center point around this fire. Symbolic, right? This is the book of symbols with sacrifice. That's what yeah. Okay, so let's read this. Finish reading this. Okay. The king of the cosmic dance, symbolizing the union of space and time within evolution, clearly has this meaning. There is a universal belief that insofar as it is a rhythmic art form, it is a symbol of the act of creation. This is why the dance is one of the most ancient forms of magic. Every dance is a pantomime or metamorphosis. I did read this. Okay. So that led to the dance and the corruption of the female aspect. So we had the slaves no longer free with the symbolism of dance, and then you have what we call pole dancing now, and yeah, what I call pole dancing, which is my qigong, okay? Now, the Dana, the ancient Iranian religion, the Dana symbolized, again, the female principle, anima, of the human spirit, while at the same time identifying it with the sum of actions, good and bad. In our zodiac, it's said that there are actually only 6 signs. We see them as 12, right? But there's actually only 6. One of the signs is synonymous with the other half of self. I for a fact know that my opposing side, not just my opposite, is Scorpio. So that would be like my shadow self or my dark self, right? That part that I don't want to deal with, that I probably act like, nah, that ain't me. That's the other person. Scorpio represents that for me, okay? And so, it's raw. It brings up a lot of feelings and emotions and stuff, right? And that's what that would do for you. So I'm going to read these off just to help you out a little bit, okay? Because I do shadow work, and if we can't properly do light work and accept ourselves for all that we are, right? If we don't do the shadow work. So this is Aries is synonymous with Virgo on that. Taurus with Leo, Gemini with Cancer, and my daughters are Gemini and Cancer, so I got to watch them grow up and deal with them being exactly, watching the energies. It was so wild. They're born within the same month or two. Libra and Pisces, like I said, Scorpio and Aquarius, Sagittarius and Capricorn, okay? Shadow work. We're dealing with light, different aspects and rays of light, different aspects and rays of shadow regarding the way the energy moves across the earth, right? And the Shekinah, the female aspect, she's like the weather, back to that aspects and attributes of a woman. Or not the woman, but the female energy, okay? The Shekinah, or the Kundalini energy. It's like a wave. Now, the Kundalini energy, the female energy, when you synonymous with this Kundalini energy, okay? That's why when on lockdown is when you totally lose your mind. Some of us, but that energy is very powerful, and that's why it's precious and should be shared. Physically with someone very special. Be careful. There's spiritual repercussions that are synonymous with sharing your physical, spiritual energy. Even if you have all your clothes on and you're at a place of business and you work there, and you're used to the environment, okay? You got your little meditation music on, your customers come in, you're at your cash register, you're at your computer, you're doing your thing. Customers come in and out all day. It's smooth. You have the environment regulated, right? Then all of a sudden somebody comes in and you're like, turn this music off and pay more attention. There ain't something right. It's a feeling. They change the aura, the whole aura inside your office space, inside your room, right? And that's with everything on inside a public space. So imagine, we need to be more careful with the kind of sexual energy. When it gets going and that Shekinah gets going, you're an open porthole. And then we add alcohol, and we add the emotions, and we add the other person's spiritual baggage, or wings, you know what I'm saying? Their attributes and their declines onto the mountain when you start to correspond with each other. And yes, there's some energy healers believe in something called transference. That doesn't just disappear. Energy never dies, it only transforms. And just because you're not an energy healer doesn't mean that you're not dealing with transference. It doesn't mean that these aspects and these principles of energy are not rubbing up against us and affecting us in our daily lives. Let's make that clear. Okay? Because some of us get funky and we bring the funk with us. And some of us are happy and joyful and we bring that with us. And that's notable. And when you study human design, you get to see different attributes and principles directly plugged in to explaining in a different way how I'm representing these energies in this conversation. Okay? So we and an intent to do that, to make a healing chart, I said all that stuff that I said in order to say, I made a healing chart! And I'm looking at these energies in a different way, okay? Because I was begifted by our ancestors to be able to see that this is not personal. There's a sickness going on, and you know, we all have something to work on. We all have different aspects and attributes that we're dealing with, and I'm grateful that I'm here at a time when I can just do my part. Do you hear the music playing? So this is my healing chart. I know it probably looks wackadoo. I'll explain it to you. And I'm going to try to find a way to take a picture of the whole thing. Not that it will help. You probably won't be able to read it or anything, but just in your journey, you're going to have certain things that are synonymous with you and who you are and what your journey is, what you're supposed to be doing. Because if it wasn't for other people who already did their part and were on their journey being true to their real nature, I wouldn't have their piece that I could have added on to, that I add on to my pieces, right, of truth, because I'm working with a truth frequency. So one of those things was Santos Bonacci and the work that he's done with syncretism. And this is one of the charts that he uses. That's a cell salt chart. Okay? I was turned on in this chart when I was at the Resistance in 2012, where for some reason I keep seeing 2010 in my head. And since we went through that, we've been having this time loop thing that most people are not paying attention to. But hey, the more glitches we have, the more people are saying, hey, wait a minute. Something is not right. Okay, I think we've been stuck in 1999 for quite a while now. They're just calling it a different year. Okay, so this is what I noticed. It's all energy. And I read this book maybe about 20 years ago, in This Present Darkness, and that book was excellent. It's called This Present Darkness. And it was like talking about how demonic spirits, right, have dominions, but it was in a storytelling form. It was real people in the book, and they were living out lives, and it was talking about how this dark spirit was over the city, and how it could be felt, and that the character in the book, what I'm saying, was aware. He was awoke. He could tell that, something wasn't right, and what I'm saying. So there was other that helped. Storytelling is important. It helps sometimes to turn the light on and let us know that it's okay. You know what I'm saying? That thing that you've been fighting, or that still small voice that you should pay attention to, it lets us know, gives us better choices on what we should shut off and turn, or what we should turn on, right? What we should pay attention to, and maybe what we should tune out. And one of the things that I tuned into was a cell salt chart. I've even taken salts synonymous with my zodiac sign. And so what I want to explain is, from that point, when I saw this and I got further into it, I realized that with each sign, there's issues or things that are synonymous with it. You know what I'm saying? So something has a dominion over that little slice there, right? Over that little sector. And so each sign has a cell of salt. That's something that's in the body. These are salts in the body, minerals in the body that need to be replaced in order to make your machine run right, your ship run right, your car run right, right? So, and then it has the organs that are synonymous with that sign. For instance, Gemini is botanical bronchial tubes, and it's the shoulders, hands, lungs, all fibers and tissues, chloride of potassium, the kalium, and it's also creative. And so you start looking at astrology, you start looking at synchronism, and you see the Gemini, and you see the arms, right? Creative. You can't do nothing without your hands. Unless some people can paint with their feet, change diapers with their feet. Some people who will adapt to some very interesting situations, but normally people create with their hands, right? And they walk towards the things that they want in their life. So another form of creation is the feet. And so that would be Pisces. And so feet, adrenal, blood, corpuscles, iron phosphate, and fernum phosphate. So here on this chart, they have the color. That was Gemini. I mean, that was Gemini. That was Gemini, and that was Pisces. So you see how they did that? And see the person there? So that you have these attributes synonymous here on this chart, right? Pretty cool. I'm like, yeah, that's a nice little thing, nifty thing to have in your toolbox. If you're having issues physically with your health, you might want to take a look at this. Tip, this is Siren Buddha Medicine. This is Regina's Rabbit Hole. Okay, this is a cell salt chart. So typically what people do is they take the cell salt that they are, and then they take the next three in order to improve their health. So that Gemini would take Cancer cell salt and Leo's cell salts. Santos Bonacci gives some really extensive information on this, and you can catch him, Mr. Astrology, on YouTube. Okay. So I liked that. And that showed aspects of light and different ways to look at energy and frequency and how it breaks down. Okay? Also, if you work with sound like I do to heal my body, I'll throw on some frequencies in a hot second if I feel like I really need to. And I find they penetrate through, just like if you're listening to bass music, trap music, or the bass of a speaker, it like goes right through you, and there's not too much of a barrier. You know what I'm saying? Within the water. So we're more like over 70% water. And sound affects water. Water could be programmed. Check out Dr. Moto's research, water research. Check out water research, period. And you should be able to learn some information on how you can program water with sound, because water holds in information. Okay? So now you've got your sign, you've got a color, and you've got some cell salts. So you've got some embedding. You've got a tool that is going to be able to penetrate past any opposition. At least, you know what I'm saying, it's going to work on your behalf. And the way you know that is that it's hitting from different angles, right? You know what that is, right? That's another crazy chart. You know what? I'm only showing you that chart to say that this is synonymous with, also with this chart that I made for myself. Now this chart that I made for myself is got a body clock in here. It's got the zodiac. Okay, here's Pisces again. It's got the zodiac. It's got the cell salts and the information from the cell salts. It's color coordinated. Okay, and it's also got the body clock. The body clock on here too. Okay, and then as a healer, it goes into, now see, that's solution. That's solution. There's a problem with your body, but knowledge is power, right? And ignorance is a form of slavery. So I started looking further, and when I look at the deacons that I was teaching you about, I put them on the wheel as well, right? And so each slice has the cell salt that's attached to that zodiac, and then you go up 3, so you can go your cell salt and the next 3, you know, the next 2 over to get that in your body. But as well, each sign has 3 deacons. So as well, see, let's look at the Gemini. Here we go. Gemini on the body clock has a spleen. Okay? So now it's with the color orange in the 3rd house, bronchial tubes, and the hands, as I said, Kali Myrrh is the cell salt to help with that. Where is some of this stuff coming from? Like, why do some people have curses and others not? Or like predispositions from stuff? And so I just started looking, and hey, let's look at the deacons. I took the deacons from here and sectioned them off into 3s because there's 36, right? And so you take and you put 3 into each zodiac sign, which is 12 zodiacs, and there's 3 deacons, right? So you end up with 36. And so just like these are synonymous and line up with the colors and the frequencies and stuff. Now there is some slippage. Anybody who tries to line these charts up will tell you there's some slippage because there's a Taurus. The energy moves. And even when you try to lock it down on the charts and stuff, you'll find some slippage and the meaning kind of shifting, you know, in regards to colors or the exact frequency and stuff like that. But hey, check this out. This is very helpful to me when I'm looking at spiritual energy, because I see that we have the ninth deacon, Koratael, he causes bowel, colic, and pain, and retreats when he hears the words Ioth, imprison Coriel. Okay, and then you have the eighth, Baal. He perverts the hearts and minds of men and is dispatched by the words Cariel, imprison Baal. And then the seventh deacon is Splendor. He paralyzes limbs, deadens the nerves and hands, and weakens the shoulders. He is subdued by the words Ariel, imprisoned Splendor. Okay? So when I first looked at them, I'm like, they're just there. They're energies that affect that zodiac. But when you look further and you look at energies and not just, you look at them as energies, you can see, okay, so Gemini, remember the limbs, okay? And Splendor paralyzes the limbs, okay? Deadens the nerves and hands and weakens the shoulders. The deacons are the shadows that are corresponding, putting shade on the light. And the, if I'm taking, just look at it as spiritual energies, okay? It's a way, I don't even have words to express the freaking joys and that, and the medicine, the love that is penetrating down from this, you know what I'm saying? That you can see given to us. Like, on one hand, we're given shade, but on the other hand, if you look at the salts, we're given the solution is right here within the landscape of the egg, you know? And us being how the light expresses itself within the Bennu egg, within the cosmic egg, is the zodiac, okay? Each of us are given traits and abilities, a portion of light that is synonymous with our zodiac sign and our date of birth, you know? And they say Satan came to kill, steal, and destroy. You know, we need to look at our heritage. We need to look at what we're sitting on as far as attributes and traits and abilities for our culture and for society that we could be utilizing right now, you know? And so it even has you know, I'm going to add more onto this chart and do more with this. But, you know, it was just, I've been making notes, you know, more notes as to remind me, because when you first look at it, some of these you can't really tell. But when you think about energy in itself, you know, you can really see, oh, check this out. Some of this you have to use etymology and ciphering. So Libra, synonymous with the kidneys, right? And so you have the cell salt. Okay, Libra, bladder, kidneys, acid, neurological, neutralizer, sodium phosphate. Okay, natrium phosphate. And then I even put the salt there. Okay? This helps me to get out the information the way that I want to see it according to what I am doing within this matrix field. Because they're teaching me to look at sickness as energy. Now, the Tao say that energy is a form of dis-ease. Now, I know our ancestors are speaking to me because before I find the corresponding answer is to confirm what it is that they're already telling me in my spirit. So I was looking at this as energy, and I was looking at listening to the voices inside of me tell me to get rid of and to dislodge the negative frequencies. You know, that we're like our body is like a instrument, right? And this instrument is like a ship that's embedding it within itself. Light, code, frequency, and sound. If all this frequency and vibration, and this is all an illusion anyway. We're looking at discord, an imbalance, discord, a frequency, dis-ease, discord being a dis-ease within our organs, okay? And this being our ship, and we have organs on our ship. We have different parts and components. Our ship being like a computer that holds in information. So each part of the body is has recorded some kind of information. Hopefully it's not trauma. If you're living with noise pollutants and stuff, there's still stuff outside of the foods and the chemicals and the smog and stuff, you know what I'm saying? Outside of physical manifestations of things like that, there's also spiritual manifestations that happen because of sound and frequency and vibration. The things that we've lived with, the things that we've been taught, the things that we've perceived, the things that we've been indoctrinated with, changes the way that we interact with. It gets caught inside of our organs and changes the way that we interact with the world around us. Okay? And this is embedding. Energy never dies. It only transforms. And like we are the world. Okay? So we're a mini model of a macro situation. And by way of contemplation is how much or how least amount you plug into the different ways and aspects of the Deacons, 19, Mardale. He causes incurable fevers and is sent away by writing his name down in the house of Mardu. 20th, Ruach's name soul. He causes knee problems and is repelled if the word phenobia is written on a piece of papyrus. And the 21st, Ruach's alas. He causes coop in infants and is dispelled if the word Rayadas is written down and carried on a person. Okay? So, Leo said his bladder and knees, right? Fever and pains. If you got some biology, right? You know too, there's some ophthalmology and ciphering. Bladder and kidneys. This thing causes knee problems. 20. Ruach's netho. Okay? So think about how energy never dies, it only transforms. I'm saying that there's an embedding, which makes our language alchemy. It's a fire. It's a fire from the photon, from the idea, from even the great beyond, where there is no light, where you make light in your mind and make these things come forward. Even people speak negatively, who bring negative attributes and frequencies into their life because it's like a mantra to them. You know, or other people who brought their lives from the place where they had a negativity in their life and spoke words of life into their life, and now they have a better lives because they fixed the currency and the frequency by way of plugging in. Okay, they found different ways to plug in. So fever from organs, the bladder can bring you to your knees. Okay, if you have a problem with fevers or a problem with your bladder, like this deacon was going to give as a shadow effect onto this sign, that could bring you to your knees. And remember, a lot of this is poetic. We find it all the time. So we find the etymology and ciphering, we find poetry, we find jokes, we find a lot of different kinds of things when we're looking at the way the spiritual energies interact with us humans on the planet. And so we find our medicine, and we also find our shade. And I always like to remind myself that, you know, as much light as I would like to attribute that I have, you know, I'm a light worker, you know, I also have a shadow. So as much darkness as I have, my shadow, as much darkness, don't be afraid of your darkness, because as much darkness as you have, your light is even greater, you know, for there even to be a shadow, to be some shade. And that's why they say you ain't doing it right until you get a hater, until you achieve some shade, right? Know this, that each sign has attributes, and each sign has you know, rays of sun, something to look up to, and each sign has some shade. Okay, and that's the pole of looking at the way the Shekinah is moving across this wheel, right? It's amazing. And that is to help me with the way I'm gleaming the apis, the way I'm gleaming the words, getting to know them, getting to know the energy, spend time with it and plug in like it's a friend. It really is a friend. It ain't got no body, and sometimes it do. Does it live in you? Is it awake? Are you aware, you know, of how the energy is living, like the living word? Okay, what comes first, the energy or the word? If it's the living word, then it was living before it became the word. It came from someplace. There's one other thing I think I wanted to talk about. About the mirror. Yeah, mirror. Darkness and light. The different attributes of self. Yeah, so we're in this world together, and you know, we say that there's 12 zodiac signs, but truly there's only 6 if you look at it that way. And if it's all a matter of perception, it's just the way that I'm looking at it. So it's tricky in the mind. I'll check out the negatives, right? And what they're doing. Seven Bomer gives a really good talk on the movie and the film, and what they're doing with the film being a gooey, like a gooey, you know, the plastics and stuff, and even the materials that they're using to make film being synonymous with, it's kind of like the embedding, you know. It does something to you. It's meant to have an alchemical reaction, okay? So these words, you know, in the black and white film, right? This image is there. So what I was looking at is We have day and we have night. And we have black and we have white. It sounded so corny, right? Yeah, I know that, Regina. Yeah, I know you know. Okay? But black, if you look at the etymology and ciphering and an unabridged dictionary, means white, means light. Okay? So what does that mean about day? And so I was looking at day watchers and night watchers. And the night watcher is actually watching the day people. And the day watchers are actually watching the night watchers. You ever watch that flick? But there's actually day watchers. There's actually watchers. There's actually watchers. When you start looking at, waking up and looking at the state of the planet, and that, ego is the only thing that says that there's nobody that came before you. There's people who already woke up and are in position, have been watching this stuff, you know what I'm saying, for better or worse, you know? There's people who are doing for better or worse, you know what I'm saying? So, watch the words and how they play with the words, because that's how it sends a frequency or a vibration into your, that's another thing. That's a shadow or a shade onto your being, is not being aware of how these words are being used and how they actually penetrate us, how they make us feel. If I say, I hate you, those words are going to make you feel something, even if it's just to say, okay, you hate me, I don't care, but I'm going to stay away from you. It made you feel something. It made you make an adjustment in the way that you interact with me. So you felt something. You felt something enough for you to make a change. If I say I love you, or I don't say anything at all, you just like the way that I feel, like being around me, then that says a lot. But that's through a light code frequency inside. And each ray of light has its own story and has its own ability to hinder or make, corrections or change in a positive direction. So, black means white, then where is day? And if I'm looking at a movie and they're taking the film that's negative and depicting me in a negative light all the time, and taking things that used to be me, but I don't see me, I only see them, and they're excusing me, and I find myself excusing myself, like feeling small, then that's dark magic. But yet, it's Eurocentric culture doing it. And that's white people. So, riddle me this, like, what is going on, right? Do you see the dark magic or black magic? This is actually white magic. Do you see the negatives that get positive? You know, like a film. I worked in a film room too, where, I developed film because I worked in a newspaper place, a printing press, darkroom thing. So, yeah, these words, right? These words, right? And the way they make impressions on your mind, pathways and grooves, right? And spaces. And a groove, a space, is synonymous with a dance, and dance synonymous with Shekinah, mind the gap, the space, where you dance and that space, that's considered currency for the spiritual realms. So this mirage, this film, luminous Illuminati, this fog on film, fog inside a film. This film is foggy. Watch your perceptions. That's what's keeping us ignorant Okay, so like I was saying, like I was repeating, which was said and recorded for other people who already did their scholarly work and thought it was important enough to spend their time, their currency, their talents and abilities putting things in books, perfecting what they knew, so that I could get my hands on it and not so much just to regurgitate what they already said, but to add to it. What? To add to the wheel of knowledge, right? To add to the wheel, to bring my own contribution, you know, to bring my own talents and abilities, my own fruits, right? From this seed to the banquet. Or what did I harvest from the seeds that were planted before me? So what are you going to harvest from the seeds? What am I showing you that for? What are you going to harvest from the seeds that were planted before you? And even if you use films, which use plastics and make mines, that can also be used as a productive tool, because we can, there's a pull, as I've been showing you. It's like money is not necessarily bad or evil. It's the intentions of the person and what they're planning on doing with it. You know what I'm saying? What's in their heart. It's the same with the information. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's just to be aware that people are doing this, it changes the consciousness grid to be aware that these things are there. And know this, other people are utilizing this. They're capitalizing on the areas of the shadow and where we need to shed some light so that we can illuminate our lack of understanding, right? Regarding our shady dark areas and stuff. So anyway, this is Siren Buddha Medicine. This was Regina's Rabbit Hole, and I was talking about the female aspect, you know, like the weather, you know what I'm saying? Remember that that chart that I showed you, you know, the zodiac, it changes with the equinoxes, you know, there's a feeling that moves across the earth, and when it happens, it snaps in there, and you're not changing that, like with an orgasm, okay? Shaman trained to be able to steer the tornado, getting to know self, accepting self. They eat the darkness, they eat the pain, they accept all, they fuse and become one with the environment. They don't, they know that, you know what I'm saying, they have the both aspects of self, okay? To acknowledge that instead of running away from it, and acknowledging the different attributes of these energies allows us to move with the Shekinah, move with these energies a little bit better. But just knowing that something may be lingering around your zodiac sign helps to be perhaps guard against it, or just the awareness, you know what I'm saying, changes the consciousness grid and the way that we look at energies, the way we look at ourselves, because we're energy. We're a light code frequency and a carbon-based vehicle. So much love to you and yours. Thank you for joining me. This was supposed to be, it's live, but I think I have it on private. So I'm just going to change it from private to public. And please feel free to catch me at Regina's Rabbit Hole, on Siren Buddha Medicine, on the YouTube. Again, much love.